We have baking hot temps continuing in the south, rounds of severe storms in the north, a tropical system developing and strengthening right now, and some more refreshing and, dare I say, cooler air for the weekend. I'm Isaiah, and let's speed run through all the weather headlines in 5 minutes or less that you need to know. Let's start off with the temperatures because we have some pretty drastic contrasts across the country from the north to the south. Nothing is new down to the south. As we've covered extensively, it's been hot and will continue to be hot from the south to the southeast and desert southwest. 90s to 100s continue all week for most, with only some slight pockets of relief here and there. So just breezing through the National Weather Service's heat risk forecast for the next 7 days, we can see many of the same areas under repeated major heat risks, especially from Texas to the southern plains and deep south, so we want to continue to stay safe and cool. Up north, however, we've seen some cooler air recently, and the good news is that some even cooler air is arriving for the weekend. Saturday, highs are in the 70s for a lot of places from Iowa northward, and by Sunday morning, temps look downright refreshing in the 50s and 60s. Sunday, 70s and 60s highs continue from Chicago to Detroit and Minneapolis, and Monday morning will be, dare I say, a little chilly for some in the low 50s and even upper 40s for parts of Michigan and Minnesota. Past that, temps will be warming again towards middle and late week, including for the 4th of July, with 80s and 90s returning. But hey, it's pretty hard to get these refreshing mornings in early July, so enjoy while you can and take a breather from the hot summer air that's coming back in a hurry by late week. Okay, so let's shift over to storms because we've had some active severe weather recently, and this will continue for many areas over the next few days with damaging winds and hail possible and a few tornadoes. We're not looking at any big time violent severe weather outbreak, but we still want to take these storms seriously and not be caught off guard. Starting today, we're looking at a broad area from Chicago to St. Louis to south of Denver, out ahead of this cold front with a focus of storms in the interior northeast from Ohio to Pennsylvania. Timing it out, we already see these storms forming in clusters this morning, and basically anyone ahead of the front here will have the chance for storms as it slowly propagates southeastward, with the greatest severe threat in both the interior northeast and the southern plains by the evening. The tornado threat is highest across Pennsylvania and the northeast, so stay weather aware for some quick spin-ups here, but gusty winds and hail are possible along this whole corridor. Tomorrow, severe storms shift east with the cold front as the much cooler and refreshing air pushes in, and places from Washington DC, New York, and Boston should be on guard. A few day-king morning storms in the area are possible, as we can see here, but the much greater severe threat is by the afternoon and evening, as the model shows we see the storms redeveloping with a primary damaging wind threat. A new area of severe weather to watch also develops from back to the Dakotas and Montana as our next storm system enters the country, and by Monday, the severe threat pushes eastward again into the northern plain. Further into the week, as the system slides further east, we do expect some more storms, possibly severe, so we'll have to continue watching this as we head to the 4th of July, but stay alert from the Midwest to the northern plains for these rounds of storms over the next few days. Okay, finally, let's turn to the tropics because things are really starting to heat up. We've got 3 systems the Hurricane Center is monitoring, with 2 areas of potential development and the recently formed tropical storm Beryl. So let's start closest to home with this guy moving through the Yucatan Peninsula right now. Conditions are fairly favorable for development, with the National Hurricane Center giving about a 40% chance as of this recording, but regardless of development or not, impacts will be the same. The storm will move into Mexico away from the US, so heavy rain is a big concern down here in Mexico, but no direct impacts to us are expected at this time. Turning further to sea, this tropical wave way out in the Atlantic also has a 40% chance of development as it moves westward, but any impacts on the system is still a ways out as it's a long way from the US, so we'll have plenty of time to track it later. What we really need to focus on is Beryl, which is likely to strengthen as it moves west as well, forecasted to become the first hurricane of the season and potentially as strong as a Category 2. Now this storm is really unusual, both in its position. We have very few storms form in June and July way out here in the Atlantic, as well as strength. It's really hard for storms to get this strong, but this is definitely worth watching. Now I'm going to do a whole nother video on Beryl tracking the forecast and potential impacts, but immediate concerns look to be for the windward and leeward island as the storm crosses into the Caribbean Sea, and anyone circled under the tropical storm and hurricane alerts need to prepare for impact, with heavy rain, storm surge, high winds being a serious threat. After this weekend into next week is when it'll go through the Caribbean Sea and could eventually make it into the Gulf, potentially bringing US impacts past then, but there's a ton of uncertainty at this point and it's still far out, so I'll get more info on my other videos specifically on this storm. For now, let's just stay on guard, check back for updates as the storm becomes a player for us into next week. And there we have it, the weather headlines we're tracking the next few days. Stay cool from the heat down south, enjoy the refreshing air this weekend to the north, which I'm really jealous for. Watch out for storms from the central to northern parts of the country though. Keep an eye out for the tropics in the next coming days and week. Thanks for watching and stay tuned as I'll keep you updated on Beryl in the days to come.